When you were playing, there was an unwritten rule. It can be such a tough, violent sport. There was an unwritten rule: you don't hit Wayne Gretzky. Now, that you were so important to the sport that opposing teams.
Do
you think that's true?
No, it's not true in the sense that I would come home some games and I remember getting up the next day and Janet saying to me, wow, don't go to practice today. And I say, no, we practice every day. I got to go. So I got hit. I didn't get hit as much as people probably wanted me to get hit, especially on the opposing teams. But listen, I knew it was time to retire. When I was playing my last year, and people I was playing against, before they would hit me, they would scream my name and say, hey, heads up, or Wayne, get out of the way, or here we are. And I remember thinking, wow, okay, something's not right about this.
I don't want to be the guy that kills Wayne Gretzky.
So, yeah.
Look out, Wayne, here I come.
I'm going to hit you now.
That's kind of what I got to, and I said, you know what? And the hockey players have so much respect for each other, and it's such a physical game. We went to a Kings game about 2 years ago, and I have two children after I retired, and the Kings are always kind enough, they let me sit on the ice, and we're sitting there, and these players today are good. They're big, they're fast, they're strong. And after the first period, we got up, and my wife and I and my two little kids and my 11-year-old son at the time turned to my wife and said, okay, be really honest, did Dad really play in this league?
Right.
So,
wow.
The game has changed.
The game has changed. Well, let's talk about your style, because it was so, you were not the biggest player, you were not the fastest player, but like some other remarkable athletes, you just seem to have a sense of where to be. Other players would say that Wayne Gretzky knows how the play is going to unfold. You could see it.
Right.
Do you feel that that's safe to say?
Probably that was my forte, my hockey sense, and it probably started because at the age of 5, I remember I said to my dad, I want to try out for a hockey team. And my dad said, okay, let's go. We're going to try out for this team. And at that time, you tried out for 10-year-olds because nobody played before that. And I made this team at 10 years old. But throughout my whole career, I was always sort of the smallest guy, and I always was sort of not the fastest guy or the toughest guy. So my game never changed from the time I started competing at 5 to the time I turned pro. And when I turned pro at 17, I weighed 147 pounds.
147 pounds.
My own teammates were nervous I was going to get hurt.
Yeah, and your technique, which was so fascinating, they would call it they would call it your office.
Yeah.
You had an area sort of behind the net where you could hang out, and that was where you liked to go, and you could sort of control the whole flow of the game for your team from there.
Well, I was one of the first guys to start. It used to be that the centerman sort of stood in the slot, guys like Phil Esposito, guys like John Rattel, and they were bigger and stronger guys. I couldn't stand there. I would get the crap beat out of me. And so I had a coach when I was 14 years old said, go watch this guy Bobby Clark play and watch how he plays. He's not very big, he's smart, he passes the puck, and he plays sort of from the corner and a little bit behind the net. And so at the age of 14, I started watching him day in and day out, and he probably had the most influence on my career as far as learning how to play the game and the style game that I played. And so I learned to play behind the net. And when I started doing that, it was so unique. Nobody had ever tried to defend that. And so I was able to really master it and become really good at it. And that was sort of my forte.
And your record, 92 goals in one season.
Right.
Many people think, many sports writers think that's a goal that's never going to be touched. It's going to be like DiMaggio's hitting streak.
Yeah.
Do you have a theory on that? Do you think in your lifetime there's some punk kid's going to come along? Get 93?
You know what? Records are made to be broken. And when I grew up, my idol was Gordie Howe. And he couldn't have been any nicer, couldn't have been any better. He was just a really good man. And so when I broke his records, he was always the first guy there. So if anybody ever breaks my records, I'd be the first guy to shake his hand. The players are good today. There's a lot of good players. That, never's a long time. But to me, when I got the 50 goals in 39 games, that's the record to me that I think will be the hardest one to break. Because 50 goals in 38 games is a lot of goals.
Yes. It's pretty good. We'll see,